Welcome to our Giving Thanks Lazy Susan project. If you can see right here, we've got a turkey finial, and he's dimensional, so you can see him in all sizes and shapes. He goes round and round. And we have a dry brush Lazy Susan panel. What's really neat about the leaves is they kind of look like they're raised, but they are actually just cut as part of the scroll work on the side. And the scrolls are super strong, so you can put, heavy stuff out there and stuff like that. They'll still support just like a regular Lazy Susan, but it's much prettier. This project is dry brushed, and dry brushing means that we didn't do any base coating and we didn't do any, there's very little shading. There's a little bit of glazing like here on the edge of the pumpkin, but there's no what you would normally float to get your shadows and stuff like that. All we do is highlight when we do dry brushing. So we're going to dry brush the initial color and let black be our background or our shade color. And then we'll highlight a little bit more, and a little bit more to get form and shape. We dry rubbed over here on the leaves, and we've done some kind of cool things. We've used little stencils to keep us on track so that it makes it super easy and we don't have to mess with this scroll work and have our brush get caught in that. So that was a real time saver, especially with all the repetition. We have stencil available for the lettering. And then what's really neat about these Lazy Susans is they come apart for storage. So obviously you don't want Thanksgiving on your table all year long. So what you do is you take this little guy out, and he's notched, so he just comes apart. And now he stores flat for storage. And then this little base that he's on is what locks him down. And that is also then flat for storage. And then the panel just lifts off. And you can take this, and now you have everything together in just a little tiny, skinny little package. Okay, and then when you're ready, you can bring another Lazy Susan. This one has a square one, a square center for a different type of finial. And we have a square peg that screws on there, and then you can swap out another kind of Lazy Susan. So this is an everyday kind of folk art and chickens for your kitchen. In order to get good texture, we're going to roll the inside with lamp black, and we're going to use a dauber not to get any glommed up paint on the inside edges. I don't even want paint on those edges. If you did, what you could do is spray paint them. So I'm going to just use a jumbo dauber that I patted off on my palette quite a bit, and I'm just going to go flat right over the top of that. And because the edges are burned dark, they're not going to show, they're not going to see anything. And when I do my varnish step, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and spray, and that'll get everything nice and sealed. Alright, to measure our band around this, we're going to open our half pipe compass, which has a lid to prevent you from stabbing on the super sharp little gizmo there. It has adjustable lead, and it's got onboard leads in the back so that you never have to go chasing around to find lead if you break your lead or it runs out or whatever. Okay, so half pipe compass absolutely has features no other compass has, but we're going to make this about a 1/4 inch band, so I'm going to go ahead and measure that like that. I'll hold it back here on the back end where I'm not going to adjust this the measurement. And then because this has got all this fancy cut work, what we're going to do is we're just going to use the flat of the piece. I'll just go along and measure away. Okay, and then when we get done, what we'll do is take our triple threat Ghostwriter with its white lead, and then I'll just go ahead and line these puppies up. Okay, and then I'll have a perfectly straight band. I'm going to use the short bright brush, the number 8, and milk chocolate to make my checks. Okay, so we'll just go from the top down. Just give it a nice little base coat. And we'll repeat all the way around. Alright, I've changed my mind. I've kind of worked out my palette over here. I'm really digging these colors. So what we've done is we've gone all over the scrolls and everything with Asphaltum. Okay, so we'll just tap that on. Keep it off the leaf. So you'll do that before you paint anything. I just had to get mine all kind of worked out first. And I'll just move this piece of tape along down. Alright, we're going to line up our stencil. I've got tack it over and over on the back so it's nice and sticky. It's like a giant post-it note. We're going to line up our stencil with the cut edges. They're cut from the same file, so they line up exactly. And that on there. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use a couple of crescent brushes. And I need a new paper towel area. This is paper towel intensive. Okay, so we're going to use one color for the brown color and one color for the orange color. So we're going to go into milk chocolate and kind of neutralize it on a paper towel because it had the last color that I highlighted with in there. And so then what we're going to do is we're going to go, I'm skipping one step. We have to go into russet and base these leaves. And that'll get them started off nice and orange. Or nice and red, I guess that's what I meant to say. Okay, and then I can take that off and I can just go ahead and turn this and go on my way and skip the blow drying step by just getting all of these based with the russet color. Okay, what I'm going to do, just in case you're wondering, is I'm going to leave this at this level and then I'm going to come back to it because I'm not sure, like I love this, but I'm not sure that when I get done painting this that this is going to go. I don't ever like to trim out before I do this part. And so I'm going to go ahead and let it rest right here and see where I go. Alright, I'm going to get you closer up. Try and keep this puppy on screen. We're going to go into soft black with an oval glaze or a filbert type brush, and we're just going to slip slap inside the basket a cornucopia thingy, and we're just going to go ahead and just get that so it's not so stark inside there. Then we'll go in with a dirty brush and we'll go into burnt umber and just go ahead and lighten that even just a little bit further. Right, the dry brush sequence goes like this. We're going to use Patty's favorite dry brush, and we are going to get you on camera. We're going to pull a little bit of paint out of our brush, out of our puddle, and we're going to fill that brush on the top so that it is just loaded and juicy. It's real hard to see with this tinier brush. And I'm just going to tilt it from side to side and then pull some paint out. And notice it's very flat here on my palette. I'm not pulling out a big puddle like that. Okay, so pull that out, flatten it on my brush. It's got to be juicy on top or you won't get it right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to streak it on a paper towel. Okay, and we'll come over here and then we're going to use our sequence. We're going to use the darkest color first. The black is our first base coat, and let me get you up where you can see. Okay, let's see if this helps just a little bit. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take your first color and you're going to do shape following strokes, and you're just going to be up on the toe and it's going to be real streaky. Okay, and you're not going to cover, the first one can kind of cover everywhere, but each consecutive one is going to cover less and less. So notice I'm just streaking and I want there to be scratches, and that's one of the reasons that we roll the color on to begin with. It's so we get some little bumps and stuff, and so that adds to the texture of the dry brushing. And dry brushing is a centuries-old technique. Now where you do want to, sorry I'm jumping around here, see that dark line in between. You don't want to close that up or you won't have any shadow effect. The black is our darkest shadow, so you've already done some shading. And then this color is our next darkest, and so we want to leave that space in between as if we shaded. Okay, not too much, or it'll end up looking like, whatever. Okay, and so we'll just keep rotating our piece, and we'll keep going around, going around. Okay, and I'll go ahead and finish this, and then I'll come back over here to this. Alright, we're back to go onto the basket itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to start on the ones that go all in the same direction, and we'll just start our weave using shape following strokes. And these strokes are so super short. This is a really easy project to begin with. Okay, so I'll do all the ones going in the same direction. And I've got to end it right before I get to the cross-hatching ones so that I end up with that shadow effect that I just talked about just a little bit ago. Okay, so just want to skim coat. I'm just ever so tickling. Okay, it is not a base coat at all. Okay, that makes it real easy to see how your basket weave is coming together. And oops, a little heavy. Careful. It's a little jumbly here on the turn, but we'll just work with it and just pretend. A lot of times when you get into these little squirrely areas, you just pretend and it's fine. You do want to go all the way to the edge when you get to the edge pieces. I think this is one of these. That should have gone that way. And okay, and now I'll repeat on my other one, and then I'll come back and show you the other cross hatching. Alright, now, whoops, I've already jumped ahead a step, darn. Okay, so we'll take our burnt umber again. I moved on to my other color and realized I didn't finish doing all my staves. So now we're going to do the same thing this direction. Pick up more. Always flick on your paper towel every time that you pick up paint. Okay, see how that's doing a nice little basket weave? See how easy this is? Super duper easy, and I love this technique because there is no base coating. I don't like to base coat. It's not my favorite thing. This way you can get right at it. You've already done your first shading, and then you just highlight. So that's what this technique is it's just highlighting. Getting there. I'm going to pretend on this bottom part that I didn't do a very good job of tracing. Okay, now I'll go ahead and pick up, I'll wipe my brush out and I'll pick up milk chocolate. And now we're going to highlight some more. Okay, so we'll go here. And now I'm not going to go as far as I did the first time. And just get incrementally less coverage, and I've got hardly any paint on my brush. Part of my problem is my colors are not in order on my palette, and I'm having to reach over piles of paint. So I'm going to readjust and get juicy on the top. Otherwise, it's not going to flow well, and you're not going to get good color. Okay, see how that's like much nicer. I just didn't have any paint on top. Reload as you need it. Rotate your piece. It's just less and less coverage. One of the things that's really important when you're doing dry brushing is after you get the initial pattern on so that you know where things are going, erase your lines. This is a micro eraser, and this is super good at getting right in there and erasing lines exactly where you need them erased. And to have all your options covered, this is a wedge eraser, and this has got interesting features. It's got corners on it, so you can also get in and erase, and it's got an all over wide one, so you can erase a lot of little lines, which is what we've got going on here. Okay, so two options. One is very detailed, and I love it for ornaments, and then this one is maybe for bigger erasing projects. Okay, on the back, then we'll just repeat the same thing that we did before. doing it lighter and less coverage. Okay, so it's just a highlight. Now if I wanted to, say I don't think that my orange is orange enough, my milk chocolate that is, if I wanted to, now I can start bringing color up through the middle, and I could repeat that color only in the middle sections for a little bit better coverage. And so now you can see it starting to pop forward. So once again, we're just highlighting, and we want to bring that all the way through to the tail. And we can also then go back onto our middle sections of our stuff here and start giving it a little bit higher highlight right there in the middle, and then that will give it a rounded, like that's just twisted around, and you can start seeing a form take shape. Then we'll go ahead and wipe our brush out, and we'll load cocoa into our brush. And you know, I think I want to skip backwards. Let's go to honey brown. Let me get some honey brown going here. I think I want a little bit more golden hue, and the cocoa I think might look just a little bit chalky right up front. So then we're going to do the same technique, but we're going to get it even smaller now and drier looking. Okay, so that's just going to increase the highness, like the high lightness, if you will. I love to dry brush. This is so much fun. Imagine shading each of these little stave things. That would just be terrible. Well, it wouldn't be terrible, but it would be a lot of work. And this is, I've been at this for about 15 minutes, and I've got everybody going along with the way they should, and I've got 2 pieces done, so this is pretty peachy. Okay, now we're going to focus more on the center areas. Okay, that doesn't mean we can't have a kiss of color out in the other nether regions, but generally speaking, we want to focus it and start building the highlights up the middle. Remember, we're shape following, so you want to make sure you're going in the direction that the stave goes. And my brush is getting what I call saddlebags, which means that it's got paint on either side, and that's what makes stripes down either side. Just wipe them off and reblend your brush. And now I'll come out here and decide who needs to have a little bit more highlight, or a little bit going towards the edge, maybe just a little bit coming out there. Okay, and then you might even go back and do a second coat on the brighter ones. Alright, so now we're going to go into the cocoa, nice and juicy, so I get good streaks ups, and I picked up a neighborhood color here. When your piles are close to each other, it's easy to go through another pile. Okay, so now instead of going everywhere the same and doing all of them, what we're going to do is start bringing this color up and we won't do anything on these guys. Okay, so we're going to just bring that up, and then just really more towards the top center. Alright, and now we'll do the same thing going on the basket itself. So we'll focus in this middle, going down the middle of the spine area. And we'll do a little bit of supplemental glazing to achieve a unified look. And now we'll repeat with a little bit of marigold plus the cocoa. And we're just going to look for some popping of some brightness here. And once again, we're really restricting where we go with it. See how that just gets tinier and tinier. Alright, the final highlight's going to be toffee, and that's going to look almost white. And so you want to really be careful that you just keep that. And be careful about getting things looking shiny. Hard things are shiny, and this is a basket, so don't make it too shiny. So if it starts looking shiny, then you need to mute your highlights just a little bit. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our russet, and we're going to wash and glaze the edges of the basket. Okay, so we'll just go on there with that color and right along those edges. This just goes over everything, and that just makes everybody look like it belongs. Okay, and we'll go on the edges here as well. Turn my brush on its chisel. It'll warm everything up. Okay, we'll find the back of the basket here. If anything doesn't look very warm, you can just give it a little glaze. And then we'll do the front as well of the rim. Okay, we're going to load, and we've got a sequence of paints. The dry brush is always done in a sequence. You're always going to start with the very darkest, which is your background color, and you're going to go to the next darkest, the next darkest, the next darkest, or the next lightest, and on and on. And you're always going to go dirty brush from one to the other, and you don't have black in your background, but this color is so close to the value of the black that it's going to be okay. So we did the sequence on the, so when you see the sequence in the packet, that's what we're talking about. And the sequence was, you know, the darkest brown up to the lightest. I think I forgot a color here. We need Marigold, which is hiding. Yeah, you can't go directly from, I always try to put them out in order, but in this case I'm going to be out of order. Okay, so you can't go directly from like a mid-value down to white. That does not work very well. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way to the edge out here. And remember, we want juicy paint. And we're just going to dry brush and get as close to the other sections as we can without really getting close to it, if that makes any sense. So we want to leave a little bit of gap so that it shows the that's the shading. Okay, so we want to have space here, and we also don't want to come all the way down to our next piece of fruit. But we don't want it to look like it's outlined with black. So there's a balance there. Okay, so I do need to go next to the line somewhere, but not next to the line. On the ones that are on top, you go next to the line, and the ones on the bottom, you leave some space. And then space around. Okay, see how that looks scratchy? That's why it's called dry brushing. Okay, so this one will get base coated all the way to the edges on both sides. Really got to have juicy, juicy paint. I could more than likely move up a size brush, but I'm happy with my 2 right now, so I'm just going to stay in my 2. Okay, you see where we're going with this? And voila, here comes a pumpkin, right? Isn't that cool? Okay, and then we might want to go ahead and tuck in little shoulders of stuff back there. I don't like it when pumpkins just end flat. It's our stem. Okay, and then repeat on the other one. Okay, now you'll wipe out your paint on the paper towel. Don't like wipe it out, like try to get all of it out. And then you just go ahead and dirty load into your next color in the sequence, pressing, and juicy loading. Notice that that's going to be like a little mix of the two colors. And that's what you want. And it's also why sometimes you need to repeat a color. Nice and juicy load. I don't know if you can see that reflection on the bottom. It's flat. You paint with the bottom. Now you're going to start paying attention to the lightest, brightest area, always going to be in the middle center or wherever your light source is. So we'll come up here and we'll start the highlight process. And so I won't bring it as far over to the edge. So you can see that we're stepping from place to place. This would be a really good time to erase your white lines as well so that you can see. It's really easy to get kind of lost in the colors. I would recommend stepping up to like the number 6 for the pumpkin, just because I think it'd be much easier for everyone to do that. I once painted a giant 2-foot chicken with a number 2 dry brush because it was the only size left at my shop. So it can be done, it's just whether it should be done. Okay, so see where we're going with this, and I'm going to erase my lines and of course repeat on the other pumpkin. Alright, moving up to the next color. Now we're going to go into, I think I'm going to go ahead and repeat, wipe my paint out and repeat with this burnt orange color. And make sure that you're dry. Sometimes the dry brushing can make some like raised stuff. You might need to sand. Oh, and I didn't erase my lines, darn. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is focus this color just a little bit more towards the middle and not so far down. Okay, so see how that did brighten that section? Okay, same thing here. And I'm going to flick on the paper towel. Always flick on the paper towel. I can get by with it sometimes, but it shouldn't happen. Okay, now we'll go up one section into the Canyon Orange. And Canyon Orange is going to be in the middle again. Okay, so now it's going to give it a little bit more of a orange look. Notice I'm not even working as hard now. Wipe that out and pick up Marigold. Marigold's going to be a really screaming color, so you might even need to mix in a little bit of Canyon Orange into it. Thankfully though, we're not going to use very much of it. Kind of give it the highest highlights. Okay, so we got good color. And we'll go into bleached sand and just give that the really highest highlights. So it looks a little bit shiny. And you could even go into just a little bit more and give it the shine if you want to. Okay, we're going to use deep burgundy and we're going to shade down here, or glaze, down in the shadowy area. And that's just going to add a lovely kiss of red. A little vibrancy. Okay, I didn't like the burgundy too much, so I'm going to get out cherry red. I wanted a little bit crisper red. And that, yeah, that's a little bit better. Maybe just a little bit down in there. And you could even bring it from the back a little bit too if you needed to. We're going to do the grapes with Admiral blue. And then we're just going to kind of get them all kind of base coated. Remember, go next to the edges where they're on the outside, and don't go next to them where they're underneath the other thing. So you want to leave that little bit exposed right there. So you'll leave some space between the grape and the pumpkin, and between the grapes that are on top of things. And you want to turn so that you're pulling towards, that's how you're going to get that feathery little edge there. I think this one's 1, 2. Okay, and then we'll repeat down here. So this one right here is on top, so it's going to get basically base coated. Okay, so I'll just get that kind of nice and rounded, and then these guys will be base coated at their edges, pulling towards the one that's on top but not going all the way. Oops. Not going all the way, yes, not listening to myself. The neat thing about dry brushing is, like, normally you would have highlight steps and base coat steps and shading steps, and this you just have highlight steps. It's really a great technique to master. My grapes are looking a little bit like a flower petal, which I think will be okay in the end. And to avoid erasing anything, just go ahead and sink your line over the top of your tracing line. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat with this color because I think it bears repeating. Looks a little bit not very blue yet. Okay, yeah, see how that's much more. Same thing here, but now I'm not going to go all the way down to the bottom of that grape. Now is when I'm going to start paying attention to building the form. I like that you're just kind of scribbling with your brush too. That's another part that I really like. Is you don't have this really hard technique, if you will. Okay, then I'll wipe my brush out and we'll go into Grape Juice next. Flick on the paper towel, always. And now that's going to go just the very, very tippy tips. There's a little bit of purple. Okay, so same thing here. Now we start away from our edges all together and we're just in the middle of the grapes. And we'll go into the purple and lilac, so the soft lilac mix. Once again, look at the value change between these two colors, the grape juice and then the soft lilac. So that's a big value jump. So you're always going to just maybe sneak over a little bit and give yourself a good mix. Just make sure you have plenty of paint in your brush and you don't have to worry about mixing because it'll happen automatically. Okay, and then I'm going to flick just a little bit more on my paper towel because that seems slightly dangerous right now. I want just a scratchy look. So see how bright that is? Let's sneak over a little bit more of our grape juice color. And it's still kind of bright. That's better. Whoops. And then this guy back here, he's in the background, so we'll just ignore him. And then let's scratch on those highlights. Then we'll go into more of the soft lilac, and then that's just going to be that little bit of a highlight. Okay, we're going to shade / glaze with dioxazine purple, sorry. Got lost in my moment there. Okay, that'll just give them a little bit of purple pop and undustify the color a little bit. Sometimes they can get a little chalky. Alright, we're going to start with soft black for our apple sequence. And we're going to use shape following strokes. So what that's going to mean to us is, get you on camera, and we're going to draw, okay, so I'm going to move our smile. The Ghostwriter has an eraser on the back side of it. Okay, so I'm going to use the white lead, and I'm going to move my smile, my fruit, and that's not in the right spot at all. There we go. I like that. And same thing over here. And the reason that I want to show you that is because I want to show that, oops, I can't find my paint on my brush, which means there's not enough. So we're going to come in from the edge straight, then we're going to arch it in, and arch it in the opposite direction towards that, the smile. And then from the smile out, we'll come right off of the edge of that smile and we'll go out to the edge of our fruit. And it's got to be shape following, and it's got to arch and be the right, like it's got to follow the curve of the apple. And ultimately we're going to get this whole thing kind of based except for that smile, which is in deep shadow. So we'll go all the way out to our edge and then just start working it down to fill it in. Okay. Then we'll pick up our next color. And that is russet. Flick on the paper towel. And now this is going to be less coverage, but it's still a very dark color, so we can cover it mostly. and not be too afraid of it. But we're not definitely going to go all the way down to the bottom. But we'll come close. Okay, so see how we're taking form and shape. The next color is Heritage Brick. And remember, we're dirty brush mixing into each of these colors. And now this is going to be less. And my movement is almost a tapping movement at this point. Okay, now it's got to come from the top of the smile. It's got to go all the way up. So did you notice that I took care of that before? And so we've got to kind of pretend like that leaf's not there. I'm kind of moving in a not very fluid motion once I get to the edge of that leaf. I need to go right over it. And the other thing that we need to do is make sure that we either erase that round circle or go all the way to it. So we've got our Heritage Brick, and now we'll go into quite a bit of Heritage Brick with our Butterscotch. And then that becomes just that highlight. That's going to be up, showing that that's round at the top. And then where the light is hitting that apple, okay, we've got to get it bright enough. We're going to glaze over this with cherry red. We want to get it bright enough that the cherry red will really make that a delicious looking red apple. Okay, so I'm going to go one more time with the Butterscotch, just to make sure that we have enough bright highlights. Let's go ahead and highlight off to the side there. And now we'll let that dry and we'll glaze it. So our apple is going to get glazed with cherry red. And this is almost like a grisaille treatment because we've painted our values and glazed it red. This pumpkin doesn't have any red in the base of it with the cherry red, so I'm going to add that now. And you can also take a little bit of your red and you can go into your grapes and just kind of sneak that up in there too. And it'll give it just a little bit more juicier red look. Okay, you'll take Butterscotch and bleached sand and you'll add highlights. Oops, shade following highlights. For the apple. Alright, so we're going to start our stem. So remembering that we're basically kind of base coating because we want it to be all green. We'll just kind of flick the color, but it can be dry brushed over our stem. But so we won't go all the way to the edge of our pumpkin. Leave it away from there. Do the same things with our leaves. I'm going to start on this guy down here. We're going to go out on the edge because nothing is over him. And basically go ahead and base coat him. Now where it comes down, where something is over him, way down here, we'll leave the color away from the edge. And we'll repeat that on all the leaves. Alright, so we've got our evergreen dirty brushed into Hauser medium green. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to start highlighting. I'll get you so that you can see. And we'll flick on our paper towel, just maybe a little bit extra. Okay, these stems have to have, the leaves have to have those like little bit of highlighted tips there. So you need to use the chisel of your brush. And we need to leave kind of like that dark area in the middle. We're going to fill it in, shape following strokes. Then I turn it the other way so that I can get my chisel going that way. And then we have to fill it in a little bit to make it not look so chisel-y. Bowling for paints here. Okay, I need to knock this puppy down to flat. So that, alright, time to make it leave. See if I can still get you so that you can see what my hand's doing. I'm not getting the right pull with the angle, so I want to go ahead and just bring it down flat so I can pull from the middle. So since I'm painting on one side of a circle, when I turn it, it makes it move, you know, like a foot away from the center. So I'm having a hard time keeping you on camera and getting the right angle here. Okay, so, and now I'm more with the flat of my brush. Okay, so it's a little hairy, but I think that's still going to be okay. So I'm going to try a little festive green with that and see what we see with that. I don't know if I'm going to like it or hate it. So that definitely changes the mood of the color. I don't know that we can't come out there with a little bit of that color. I'll wipe my brush out, and then Hauser Light Green is next. And let's see. That's going to be more center leaf. Okay. Oops. And then a little bit of the green tea. Don't want our leaves getting too white. Okay, so just a little bit of highlights. And then let's try, I'm going to soak my Raphael #1. And we'll try doing a little bit of the detail on this and see if we like the finished leaf. Okay, so I'm going to turn this so we get you where we like it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a stem with thinned Hauser medium green, Hauser light green, sorry. And then we're going to go ahead, I'm going to get a little bit thinner, a little bit more paint, a little juicier in my brush. Okay, so here's what we're doing here. So I'm adding water, and I pulled it out of the puddle, and I want it to be kind of sloshy, but not as thin as water. And I want my brush to be fully immersed in it, and then it'll flow really well off the end of my brush. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to line slightly off of my leaf. Okay, and that gives it just a little bit more looseness and a little bit more kind of feeling. And we'll go into our green tea and highlight that stem just a little bit just to give it some jazz. And then we might even go, give it a couple little shine marks with the green tea. I think I can dig it. I think it might get away from us, so I've got to be careful that maybe they don't all look that bright. This is more in that center of interest, so I think we might can get by with it, but yeah, so we'll do it with the leaves like that, with just maybe not quite so bright. Alright, so on the pumpkin stem we'll sketch with our Ghost Rider. We'll sketch these kind of going, let's see, so this is going to go, sketch these kind of going around just a little bit, and then we'll highlight up the centers to give them that twisted, gnarly stem. Okay, and then we'll highlight with, how's our light green, just up the middle of the stem. And that's twisting around from that back area, so we want to really wrap that. And then we'll go into the green tea. I think I'm going to call it olive green earlier. I think it's green tea. I don't think it's green tea, it is green tea. Okay, that gives us a good gnarly little stem. I think we can call our greens finished. Alright, we're going to make a little tendril, and I'm going to use the Raphael number 1. I'm going to use Hauser medium green. And just loop that puppy around. Oops, got to have thin watery paint in your brush. Okay, I think we have to have something out here. Okay, I think I'm going to highlight my stems still here. And then we've got to give our apple, let's do butterscotch plus the soft black for our apple stem. It's a kind of a funny little brown, and then highlight with butterscotch. Alright, we're going to add some hints of grape juice in our leaves, focusing in the shadow areas. Add some on our apple. I think it might be pretty. I'm going to go into Diox here and give a little bit of accent on our basket. I think that could be lovely. Maybe where it's in shadow. And shadowy bits on our leaves, and maybe even just a little kiss on the pumpkin. I don't want it to get too purple and you know, and all that, but I think just a little bit here and there is good. Kind of unifies the colors just a titch. I think our pumpkin needs to be brightened. I think he's very, very orange and he looks a little droll. So I'm going to go into Canyon Orange and Marigold, and I'm going to yellowify him just a little bit. I want a brighter orange. And why not go ahead with the yellows on our brush, give some of our leaves, maybe even our stem, just a little bit of that color, the marigold. I think our grapes are going to need a little bit of something too. Okay, that just gives everybody a little bit more yellow. All right, grapes, what do you need? Let's see, I think we're going to go into grape juice plus the soft, soft lilac blue. And let's give them just more of a pop. I've got a little bit of the marigold still in my brush as well, but that's not necessarily, yeah, I think we just need to, I don't like the marigold in there. Need to bring them up just a little bit so it's two colors to make a highlight color and back over them. Okay, and then maybe just wipe that into soft lilac and brighten them up there. The highlights just weren't big enough, I think, is what I think was bugging me. Okay, now they're a little bit more grapish looking, and then we could have final highlights with Bleached Sand Plus. And give them a nice strong final highlight. And if you find they get a little too white on you, then just go ahead and wash them with a little bit of the Diox. And I think that's what I'm actually going to do. Like, I like them, but I think I want them a little bit more. This is probably where I got them too purple already. Keep that highlight alone. Okay. Okay, we're going to use our fingertip dauber and grape juice. And I'll just get it nice and evenly patted on there, and we'll use our stencil. And we'll give it 2 coats of this color. If you get into some of these really fine areas, then what you do is you switch to a crescent brush and you stencil with the crescent brush, and it'll be a little bit finer and it gets into the skinnier places. We're going to use a small round brush and we're going to dry brush the centers of the letters with Wild Orchid. And give them a nice middle highlight. We can just highlight just ever so much on the bits that don't really get highlighted. They can have just a little kiss of something. Okay, then we'll go in to our bleached sand and our summer lilac and our wild orchid, sorry. And we'll highlight within that highlight. I think I dig it. And then we'll go ahead and I think let's give a little kiss of the Admiral blue to the tops and bottoms of the letters. And so what we'll do is we'll use our curved flat brush, and gotta be able to get to the tops and bottoms of my letters, and we'll just glaze just ever so much with the chisel of that brush. And do it on the bottom as well. See if I can get you there. Draw that up. Okay. Then we're going to mix our metal powders and glass. Ooh, yeah, glass stain. Okay, that pours out. We are going to mix a lot of it, apparently. Okay, we'll take some of this metal powders, put those out, and then just take a little bit of our glass stain. Ooh, get it off for your project. Okay, and then you mix it up. It wants to poof, poof, just a little bit. Don't let it, or if you do, keep it away from your project. And so see how that becomes this wonderful, glorious metallic color. This is the brass color. And these actually are metal powders that are all ground up. So they're real metal powders. Okay, we'll take our metal powders and our Raphael, maybe a little bit of water in there with that for flow. And we're going to drop shadow left sides of these letters. Give it some elegance. Ooh, that's heavy. Okay, if you get a big mistake like that, you can use a Q-tip and erase it, or you just line next to it with a little bit of, yeah, so now we're going to get a Q-tip. So I'm going to spit on this ultra sharp, oops, get you there, ultra sharp Q-tip, and then I will peel that off of there. Okay, so apparently glass stain in it, it's not wanting to come away, right? There we go. Pardon me. And then I'll fix it. All right, I'm going to add a bleached sand, really thin line in the highlight. That just adds a little bit more jazz and sparkle. I'm playing with my banding colors, and I'm not quite sure where I'm at yet, but I do think I do like the desert turquoise on a crescent brush, scumbled in my band. Some light, some strong, change the direction, so it's not like really a base coat, I think. We're going to go ahead and drop in some desert turquoise into wherever that highlight is not. Don't want to take over the highlight and redo them, but I think the little bit of desert turquoise in the middle of that is settling. I think it gives it a little bit of an anchor, kind of. And it also unifies some of the colors here. For the band, we're going to go into desert turquoise, and I didn't like the purple on the bottom. I'm not sure I'm going to use the purple in the bands at all. So desert turquoise on band itself. Might take 2 base coats. And then wipe that off and load in some Indian turquoise, and then just go in the middle and walk back and forth in the middle area. Wipe that off, add some bleached sand and get it mixed, and then add that in that other area, and then peel your tape. Okay, super simple little band. All right, we're going to do our little checks. Not our checks, our leaves, sorry. And first they're done with russet. Get that lined up. I had another one, I got another one as well, so I can go kind of twice as fast. And so I'll work on 2 at the same time because there's a lot of repetition. And come on, guy. Helps if you have it angled the right way. Okay, and we're going to take our crescent brush and we're going to go on the yellow sides with milk chocolate, honey brown, and then marigold. Okay, so we're just going to rub, and I guess I don't need to rub quite so much off. Milk chocolate, and leave some of the brown showing. Then we'll repeat with honey brown in our dirty brush. And you start from the tip in so that the bright stays out there. Pick up more if you need it. And you could repeat this color if you want it just a little bit brighter. Be careful about the leaves taking over because they're an accent, not the main focal point. And then we'll pick up finally marigold on a dirty brush. Okay, then we're going to use our magic mesh, and we're going to do some marigold, strong, and then if we need it, marigold plus bleached sand. Okay, and I'm not sure I need that. Okay, and now we'll swap brushes and we'll do the other side, and the other side is burnt orange, canyon orange, and marigold. Right, so we're going to take our cherry red and we're going to glaze, not a lot, but just enough on the brown sides of these leaves. Keep it off the brown on the, and just give some here, some there. Don't treat them the same, and try not to make it look red. Okay, we just want little touches of red, just to perk it up a little bit. And I'm going to take thinned gold metal powders with glass stain. I'm going to spatter off on my palette and my 1/2 inch rake and a big heavy brush. I'm going to give each leaf a little bit of a metallic. Always spatter off on your palette. If you anchor your brush and you lower it, then you'll get control over your spattering and it won't go everywhere. Okay, we're going to spatter on our cornucopia. Okay, and I think I want a little bit snow spatter, so I'll go really high up and really fine over the piece. It's really fine. I've gotten almost all the liquid off. I'm going to give it just that little bit of luminescence, kind of. Okay, I'm going to spatter with evergreen. The other thing with spattering is you can spatter sequentially, just like you do with your floats. You start with your darkest and move your way up. I'm going to grab my bridge because I have things wet everywhere. A bridge, let me see if I can back it up here. So I've got wet stuff. So this is a bridge. It has a little foot on it. I can put it over the top and slide it across my project and not get my hands into things that I shouldn't be into. Okay, so I want to spatter off of my leaves. Okay, so I'll anchor. And make the greenery kind of just go a little bit further. And then I'll switch to Hauser light green. And then maybe we'll spatter with a little bit of yellow. Okay, and that just diffuses things. It makes things sparkly. Okay, we're going to use desert turquoise and scumble on our pedestal in both pieces, here and there. Where it'll show, so we got to make sure that that's going to show a little bit, not so much. And then we'll do the same on the top one. Okay, let's get you in a little tighter. And so we're going to use Admiral blue, and we're going to do his little feathers. I call them scales a lot of times. And we just flick on Admiral blue. Okay, so we'll have a row there. Whoops, don't line them up. Don't leave any holes. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do his head in the blue color as well. And we'll do the back of his body a little bit with that. And we'll pick up grape juice. Look on the paper towel. And then just highlight that. Highlight his head. And we'll go into the soft lilac. With the dirty brush. Okay, and we'll give those just that little bit. Okay, that's a little not dirty enough. Give those just a little bit of a accent. Alright, we're going to move We're going to put a heritage brick on this dude right here. And then we'll move into, nope, it's not heritage brick, that's russet. Now it's heritage brick. And then into coral blush. I'll have to kind of wait for that to dry. But in the meantime, I'm going to pick up some festive green, and I'm going to go over his front feathers, and then I'll pick up a little bit of desert turquoise as well. And so he'll have those feathers, but he'll have a little bit of bottle green kind of thing going on. Okay, and then on his arm or shoulder, we'll glaze with the Admiral blue. Just gonna walk that down. Okay, I'm going to go into milk chocolate, and I'm going to, oh, you know what, I want to wait on this part of the tail, and I'm going to go on this part of the tail because I think I'm going to end up with line-up issues. And I'm just going to dry brush down his tail, not going all the way to the edges of the tail. So leaving that little gap so that it shades. And I think we'll go ahead and take the dry brushing of this color in on his bottom. And don't take it all the way out to the edge. I'm going to repeat with honey brown. I'm going to do both sides, don't forget. Then we're going to put all of the tail divider thingies, I'm not sure what these things are called at all, with honey brown. Okay, these are going to be highlighted with a dirty brush, dry brush of cocoa, which doesn't seem light enough. Let's go toffee. The dirty brush ought to take the white out of the toffee pretty well. Let's see. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Alright, we'll shade to separate the areas with black green. Alright, and we're going to take our cherry red color and glaze that wattle or comb or whatever it is. And you know, let's put a little bit of red in the wing. Maybe even on the tips. Alright, to finish everything up, what we would do is we would spray to varnish, and you would use a wax on the top of it if you wanted to make it very like food safe and like not so you can scrub it and stuff. To put it together, what you're going to do is you're going to take your Lazy Susan base and you're going to eyeball where that screw is, and then that'll slide right on top of that screw. Okay, and then you're going to take your base and you're going to glue this together, and then there's a hole in the center right there, and you're just going to twist that on, and it's actually the perfect size for the screw that comes with your Lazy Susan, and it tightens right on down, so now you don't have a loose piece. Your turkey is going to slide together like so. Okay, and then he fits in the base, and he's got a little notch where the screw fits, right where it belongs. And if you wanted to, you could glue this piece together, but because it comes apart for storage, honestly, I wouldn't do that. And now you have a beautiful Thanksgiving or fall Lazy Susan.